The first discussion question I'd like to ask, and I'll start with Kevin, is why use color?
When I graduated with my degree out of Carnegie Mellon, I actually didn't design with color. I was afraid of color and did an awful lot with angle and intensity, and there is an awful lot you can do with just angle and intensity. It was working with Nick that kind of broke me of that habit. That, and I also designed a couple of shows for my father, who was very particular about what skin tones looked like and kept looking at me going, why don't you use gel for me? And I said, well, you know, I can do so much with angle and intensity. And he said, yes, but you're missing something. And that's, I think, the best answer. Why use color? You're missing something if you don't. Now, I really can't conceive of designing without color, and it's become, for me, a situation where no color is a color choice. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something to keep in mind. When you choose to go no color, you're making a very deliberate color choice. I was working, mentoring an MFA student on a production of Sweeney Todd at Northwestern just this past year. And he was mixing his plot with source fours and moving lights. And after about 10 minutes of cueing, I looked at him and I said, what is the moving light doing for you? And he said, it's a refocusable special. I said, okay, I got that. But look at the color. What is the color doing for you? You've got a choice there. Make sure it's deliberate in the design. And it took only about 3 cues being adjusted before it became a very deliberate color choice that was used in a very specific manner. I had an occasion to talk to a professional lighting designer about 3 months after that show, and we were talking about the fact that I had been involved in that show, and I related this story, and he said, you know, it's interesting you say that, because I was impressed by the fact that that different color temperature was treated in such a deliberate manner in that show. He said, I'm so used to going in and watching those kids that are MFA students saying, oh, look at this great toy I've got, and it's cutting through all of the other light, it's switching around, it's doing all kinds of things, but without any deliberate choices being made. So I think that why use color is because you open yourself up to an awful lot more options when you do that. And secondly, I think that that doesn't preclude using other sources as a color choice or using even incandescent ungelled as a color choice.
For me, you know, the reason why...
I'm sorry, there was a question.
Oh, I'm
yeah.
sorry.
As far as palette selection, before we move incredibly away from that, I have a situation I'm sure a lot of other people have, and I've found some workarounds. Oftentimes, I'm presented with an actress who is albino, fully albino, and a very dark ethnic skin tone on the same stage in both straight and musicals. Okay, I don't like designing that.
Right.
But do you have any recommendations for how to achieve a well-balanced palette?
The only thing that I would say is again, just as I talk about looking inside color, look inside a skin tone. You will find that most skin tones have a warm element to them. So if you're going through picking colors that don't have any warmth in them, whether it's your blue or a green, you can even get some slightly warm greens. If you don't look for that undertone that's going to somehow pick up something in the skin tone, you're dead. There's no recovering from that. I worked with Dayton Contemporary Dance Company for a number of years, and they're a very multiracial company. And Geraldine Blunden, who was the artistic director and founder of the company, once sat at the back of the theater with me, and we were, I think it was Rainbow Around My Shoulder, which is a Donald McHale piece. And she turned to me and she said, what colors do you use? You always make my dancers look so good. And I said, well, you know, I'm using this color and this color, and I gave her some names of gels, and she said, but those are the colors that the other designer uses. And I said, yeah, they're pretty standard colors. And she said, but why do they look so good? And the answer is, it has to do with how you blend. And so I think that the answer is less in the color you choose than how you choose to use the color. And that's why I can confidently say I go into every show and just pick 2 or 3 colors that I've never used. Because even though I don't know precisely what they're going to do, I know that I've got an eye and an aesthetic, and as long as I'm not picking a color that's running counter to something that's happening in the show, in terms of that undertone and interior color of it, I'm not going to mess up. You know, I may not get the look that I had 3 shows ago, but I don't want that look. So this is a way of introducing and exploring. So it's less about the color choice, except for those interior color issues, and more about the color use.
I was going to say, another thing you can do is talk to your costume, wardrobe, makeup people, too, and sometimes they can help you out. Especially, a lot of times we work in situations where we don't have the luxury of many lights. You just have enough to cover the stage, and so you can't get a lot of blending all the time. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. Depends on the situation. But you can always talk to your makeup people as well, and sometimes that can help balance things up just a little bit.
Something, when we're talking about color testing, there are no rules. You can take a sheet of gel, cut it, tape it together with another color to mix the two. That's the wonderful thing when you're lighting scenery and you've got some really opposite colors. You find one color works for the red and one color works for the blue. You can actually blend those colors. There's no rules. And that's the whole idea of just kind of playing a little bit. It's like finger painting.